It's been a solid 2 years since Rainbow Six Siege first breached our lives. Far from fading into the haze of sequels, Siege has stood strong, blast shields at the ready. But before I drone on too long, let's jump into it. Hi, I'm Alpha Lance with the Leaderboard, and we're talking about the latest, greatest, wall-smashingest Tom Clancy game to date. Strap that vest on and fall into formation. It's time for 107 facts about Rainbow Six Siege. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. Siege is the latest addition to the 17-game Rainbow Six series, and one of the newest entries in Ubisoft's vast 40-plus game Tom Clancy series. Other recent entries include Tom Clancy's The Division and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. The 40-plus game series started when Tom Clancy, the creative mind behind famous works of espionage like The Hunt for Red October and other Jack Ryan classics, started Red Storm Entertainment in 1996 to expand into video games. He founded the company with creative director Steve Reed and Captain Doug Littlejohns. Clancy originally met Littlejohns while both were serving in the Navy. Red Storm became a subsidiary of Ubisoft after they successfully released the first Rainbow Six game in 1998, introducing elements of planning and cooperation missing from most classic shoot-'em-ups. Ubisoft's first cooperative release with Red Storm was a little game called Ghost Recon, which would go on to win Game of the Year from IGN and PC Gamer in 2001. Tom Clancy eventually sold the rights for his name to Ubisoft in 2008, as his creative relationship with the games diminished. Although his level of involvement in later games is unknown, he passed away back in 2013 in his Baltimore home. Rainbow Six Siege was developed to replace a canceled project called Patriots. Announced back in 2011, Patriots' narrative focused on operations against an American terrorist group called the True Patriots, a militia rallying against the 1%. However, after nearly 2 years, the game was still stuck in development hell. Between Clancy's death and gaming transitioning from the 7th to 8th generation of consoles, Ubisoft decided to scrap the project in favor of a new direction. The new team decided to re-examine the Rainbow Six franchise, building their project on its most basic elements: multiplayer teamwork and realistic anti-terrorist operations. They wanted new players to embrace what fans already loved about the earlier games while using multiplayer to make the experience their own. A single-player campaign was yet another concept scrapped in Siege's development phase. The team wanted their fanbase to be the lifeblood of Siege, so they decided to refocus the game through a sustainable online multiplayer. This would not just keep players active, but also ingrain teamwork into gameplay. Wanting the game to feel realistic, the team developed the map's environments to be completely destructible, allowing players to fire through walls, breach enemies through the floor, or shoot up your hostage's best china. Tactical destruction quickly became a huge factor during development. The Ubisoft Montreal team tested Real Blast, a destruction engine they created that procedurally broke down all material, and happy with the test, redesigned every environment around destruction. This doesn't mean you can blow a whole house up, but don't let that stop you from trying. This was a little awkward as the running title of the new project at the time wasn't Siege, but Rainbow Six Unbreakable. While this was meant to represent the spirit of the Rainbow Six team, the irony was not lost on Ubisoft Montreal, and Siege became the new title early into development. The team also looked at famous terrorist attacks from history as a reference for planning in-game operations. The Moscow theater hostage situation, the hijacking of the Lufthansa Flight 181, and the 1980 siege of the Iranian embassy were all studied. French Special Ops, the GIGN, were also consulted about proper procedures during a hostage situation. Trying to shove even more realism into the game, the developers wanted hostages to interact with the environment and players themselves. They developed what they called the living hostage. While you babysit them through the chaos, hostages will react to gunfire, explosions, even cough at virtual dust in the air. Keeping all these factors in mind, the team silently started development in 2013. It would be a whole year before any kind of project was finally released. Sneaky, sneaky, Ubisoft. They are so sneaky, in fact, Ubisoft gave the public no update about Patriots' cancellation. It was only when Siege was announced that Ubisoft quietly came clean that the 3.5-year project was dead and buried. Despite Montreal heading up development, several other Ubisoft offices would eventually contribute to the project.
These included Barcelona, Kiev, Toronto, Shanghai, and Chengdu. What's up, USA? Not gonna help make an awesome tactical fighter multiplayer game for us to enjoy? During development, the Siege team tested the game, allowing for respawns in early alpha testing, but quickly scrapped the concept. They reasoned that allowing players to live only once would reinforce the importance of planning, teamwork, and environmental awareness. They also wanted players to understand the new features in their design. They released an infographic describing Siege's always in control philosophy. 10 commandments explaining their design processes following the 3 C's: character, control, camera. In short, optimizing your character's abilities, how you control them, and how the camera guides your gameplay. Speaking of control, the team also announced during development that the lean was being reintroduced to the franchise. Players could again retain close control over their crosshairs by just barely peeking around corners. Bringing back the lean added natural movement into the game's strategy. As always, some elements planned in development never saw the light of day, pruned early off the Siege tree. Danny Drapeau, Siege's lead game designer, shared that hit markers were eliminated quickly after the alpha was released. Apparently, firing blindly into a crumbling wall and looking for hit markers was a lot easier for players than actually planning. Another idea scrapped was something essential to most first-person shooters: jumping, of course. While this may frustrate players used to Mario hopping over noobs online, Drapeau reasoned that real counter-terrorist units can't jump. They have too many guns in their knapsack, guys, come on. While no map creation tool exists as of yet, Drapeau revealed that the team had early conversations about the idea. However, not knowing if the Rainbow Six fan base wanted such a tool, they decided to wait until the community insisted on it. Originally, as audio director Luis Felipe Dion explains, Siege featured ominous and intense music meant to build the tension of gameplay, but the music ended up diminishing the gameplay, distracting players from the sounds of their enemies. Instead, Dion opted for dynamic sound propagation, which allowed sounds to cue players on their enemy and aid their tactics. Dion took advantage of the destructible environment, customizing sounds so players could tell a wall was breaking down simply by listening. Now, if you're saying, come on Alpha Lance, there's music, I've heard it, you dum-dum, you'd be right. While the gameplay itself has only dramatic sound, Dion and veteran game composer Paul Haslinger created a 21-track soundtrack to accompany the game. You may have heard Haslinger's work in other Ubisoft series such as Far Cry or Need for Speed games. Rainbow Six Siege was announced at E3 in 2014, revealing pre-alpha footage showing a hostage situation. Terrorist operators have kidnapped a young woman in her home. As the counterterrorism moves in, they fortify their area against the oncoming breach. While many players were excited by the footage, the objectification of the female hostage caused a controversy. Seeing the terrified woman thrown madly between each unit's possession left quite a few people unsettled. Ubisoft quickly clarified that men would also be hostages. The original release date, October 13th, had to eventually be pushed back to December 1st. After alpha testing the game in April, the team decided they needed a few more months to balance players and weapons for fair multiplayer gameplay. The team would open testing 2 times before its December release. First as a closed beta in late September, and then as an open beta in late November. Originally, the open beta was scheduled to open November 25th, but was delayed a day due to matchmaking time issues. Beta, get that fixed. Let's see what I did there. Shortly after Siege released on December 1st of 2015, Ubisoft teamed up with the famous Chris Ryan of UK's SAS unit to train 3 YouTube stars as an anti-terror squad. Gamers Ashley Marie, VicStar123, and Ali A were tossed into boot camp where military trainers peppered them with paintballs while they tried to stay in formation. Not so easy, is it, noobs? Siege was released in a variety of editions. The standard edition was released on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC, along with a season pass giving players early access to DLC content. And if you really wanted a bang for your buck, purchasing the collector's edition included a season pass, a hat, a backpack, a compass carabiner, and a 120-page tactical guide. 6 months after the release, Ubisoft also released a starter edition for the PC. This included everything from the standard edition except for a limited number of operators, but the pack gave players Rainbow Six credit to purchase 2 operators of their choice. Although the starter pack was originally supposed to be a limited time offer, it became available available permanently on Uplay in early 2017. And just to throw in some extra hype sauce, gamers who purchase Rainbow Six Siege on Xbox One could also download Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2 for free. Obviously, Ubisoft didn't want Siege to become a passing fad, so maintenance of service to their players quickly became the name of the game. The Siege team decided that any future maps from DLCs would be available to download for free. Ubisoft was confident that Siege would sell over 7 million copies over its lifetime, but were a bit worried when Siege only sold 76,000 units in its first week. However, Ubisoft's a game-as-a-service philosophy paid off in due time. Siege's fanbase continued to grow, and by mid-2017, the game had reached over 25 million registered users, more than triple of what they expected the game to reach in a lifetime. The game-as-a-service model worked so well, in fact, that other games began to use it as well. Halo 5, Overwatch, and Titanfall 2, to name a few, also announced plans to have all their DLC maps released for free. And what's good service without ensuring modding cheaters are caught and booted? Shortly after release, the team introduced BattleEye, a program which scans your computer for cheating applications. Within the first week, BattleEye had kicked over 3,800 cheaters to the curb. Cheaters weren't the only ones getting booted too. Siege's first update not only fixed bugs, but brought in an auto-kick system for any player guilty of friendly fire. This was done to curb the 1.8% intentional killing rate found after the initial release, though if you ask me, it feels a bit higher than that. Siege also became the first Rainbow Six game to have its own eSports league. Seeing as the game was built around multiplayer, it isn't that surprising that Ubisoft had their eyes on a Siege tournament since development. The Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Pro League was announced late January 2016 for PC and Xbox One, with a $100,000 cash prize for first place. Critic reviews were generally positive after release. While many praised Siege for its destructible detail, fluid movement, and intelligent maps, the biggest issue most had was the lack of solo play. The situations, 10 tutorial operations that allowed players to build up their skills, were found to be short and unsatisfying. While Siege doesn't have a traditional single-player story mode, the Siege team did create a storyline for the game. In the story, a terrorist group named the White Mask are on their rise 3 years after Rainbow Six is deactivated. Under an unseen new leader named Six, the Rainbow team must reassemble to counter the White Masks. Although there is no cut-and-dry story mode, Ubisoft got some big talent to bring their characters to life. The voice actor for Six is none other than Angela Bassett. You may know her from roles on American Horror Story or the Black Panther movie, where she portrayed the character Ramonda. In Siege's multiplayer, teams are divided into orange versus blue. The original team names during development were Rogue Spear and Raven Shield, which come from the titles of previous Rainbow Six games. Microtransactions exist by either the in-game currency called Renown or real-world cash that can be exchanged for R6 credits. This can be used to purchase new cosmetic options such as weapon skins or a new operator. Since release, there has only been one additional game mode released. This was done in a DLC entitled Operation Skull Rain. The DLC added a tactical realism mode where players are forced to rely on their tools rather than marking their enemies or using their HUD display. The Siege team kept their DLC map promise. After the 11 initial maps released with the standard edition, Ubisoft would release 7 more through free DLC. House was the first map released to the public. It was shown at E3 2014 and then again a month later on Twitch.tv during a dev gameplay session. A few super sleuths pointed out some small differences between two showings. For example, the shower was changed into a bath and the garage side door was no longer blocked. House features some Easter eggs for Watch Dogs fans. Look out for the poster that says "Sculpt Your Body." You can see that it comes from Gym Center, the company that also heavily featured in Watch Dogs. And if you happen to notice a purple plush octopus hanging out in the bedroom, go on and smack it around a little. It definitely won't get bigger and bigger and bigger every time you hit it. Totally not. Another map, Bank, has quite a few Watch Dogs Easter eggs in it as well. You can find a billboard for Bruised Up Bar and companies from the first Watch Dogs game listed on the Bank ticker. The map even has some fun glitch tricks. If your operator drops a deployable shield between themselves and the front desk, the player is shot below the map and gives them a clear line of sight to their enemies while remaining hidden. Bartlett U has a few Easter eggs of its own. Many of the landscapes that can be found hanging on Bartlett's walls are screenshots from other siege maps, like the Chalet and Favela. Cafe Dostoyevsky, a map located in the heart of Russia, is named after the Moscow novelist Fyodor Dostoyevsky, author of Crime and Punishment. Upon his death in St. Petersburg during the year 1881, Fyodor confessed it was in his last wish to be immortalized as a map in Rainbow Six Siege. Maybe we're changing his wording slightly, but believe us. Around Cafe Dostoyevsky, players can hear Russian classical music in various locations. Miniature overture by Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker can be heard emitting from the cigar lounge, while Mahler's Symphony No. 6 plays in the CEO's office. Canal has one of the stranger Easter eggs in the game. If you shoot a breaching round at one of the red containers on the ship and detonate it, a voice can be heard yelling in the distance over the explosion saying, "We're coming!" The Oregon map has a bit of history behind its design. The building's layout bears a striking resemblance to the site of the Waco siege in 1993, a U.S. military operation where units stormed the building of a religious group called Branch Davidians, who are assumed to have weapons violations. Speaking of building layouts, tactical plans can be seen on the whiteboard in meeting hall showing an assault on the first floor of Hegford Base. An ominous message reads, 87 days left. If you're thinking to yourself, gee, I bet there'll be a Watch Dogs Easter egg on the presidential plane too, possibly for a bar of sorts, well then you are both weirdly specific and correct. Outside the plane, players can see multiple advertisements for Miller's Rail, a bar that was heavily featured in Watch Dogs. For all their boasting about realism, the Siege team made some strange dimension choices for this map. The Boeing 747 in the game is actually double the size of the same model in the real world. Speculation says this was possibly done to make gameplay a bit more fun. And while most elements in the games are destructible, the presidential windows on the plane are nearly indestructible. Only the OTS-03 can cause them any damage, but even this has been removed, re-added, and then removed through various patches. Yacht was the first map given to players in the DLC Operation Black Ice. It was released on February 2nd, 2016, just 2 months after the initial debut of the game. The yacht itself was initially named Boreal, and upon closer examination you can find it was from Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. For unknown reasons, Boreal was later nicknamed Arlock in patch 2.3. The realism on Yacht is pretty incredible. Any shields or walls mounted outside will begin to build snow after a matter of time. Now all we need is a snowman building tool. Protect the hostage from the sun! If you go to the border map, you can become one of the select few privy to attack plans. Players who walk through the customs inspection room will find a calendar showing July 31st as the day to storm what seems to be the map Favela. Some players speculate that this was the original release date for the map, but it and the others faced a delay. Border has one last, rather grim Easter egg. 3 dusty silhouettes of what look like former operators can be seen burned into the side of a vent on the main floor. Brazilian statue fans will be happy to know that in the north of the map Favela, players can spot Christ the Redeemer, the giant Brazilian statue of Jesus, far in the distance. There's a fun, sporty Easter egg as well. Scoring a goal in the soccer goal of Favela will actually cause a cheer to go up nearby. Skyscraper, the map named in the Operation Red Crow DLC, was the last map to be released in 2016. It's located in Nagoya, Japan, and was one of the first maps in Siege to feature exclusively interior gameplay. The game's room inside Skyscraper is basically an homage to the Ubisoft's Golden Boys. Titles like Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, and Tom Clancy's The Division can be seen sitting on the shelf. Assassin's Creed has another Easter egg in Skyscraper. Look at the belt buckle on the samurai armor and you'll clearly see the Assassin's Creed logo. Maybe this is a hint at a future addition to the Assassin's Creed franchise. One can only hope. If you wander up to the second floor of Skyscraper, you can find a drum called a taiko drum. Melee that drum and you can actually create a beat, a soldier, and a musician. What a talent. It seems like the Siege team loves their diegetic sound. 2017 gave us Operation Velvet Shell, which came with the map called Coastline. giving us more songs being played in map rooms. Speakers by the Coastline Pool can be heard circulating through 4 licensed songs. Speakers by the Coastline Pool can be heard circulating 4 songs that Ubisoft licensed to play, just for you guys. You can also play some pool on Coastline. Players can shoot the billiard balls and force them into holes. The white ball even responds after it falls in, unlike all your dead fellow operatives who are permanently slain while you're playing your little game. The theme park map in Operation Blood Orchid actually has a name. The sign at the entrance can be translated into Rainbow Amusement Park. In Theme Parks Arcade, you can find a machine marked with the game tag Boston Bear Jew. Boston Bear Jew was a real-life Siege player who passed away in early 2017. He was a major fan of the game, so his friend contacted Ubisoft, who agreed to immortalize the player in this map. The tower is another map with no recognizable name released on Operation White Noise, but one can be found by observing the materials inside the building. Players have discovered the name as My Yoke Tower. The tower contains one of the coolest Easter eggs we've found in this game. If a player breaks a case sitting on a cabinet and sends a drone inside, they will discover a small secret compartment containing books that leads to yet another secret room. In this room, you can find a shadow display of the original Siege logo along with a chibi of the operator Smoke. And he isn't the only chibi in the tower. Another chibi of Tachanka is hidden on a stack of boxes under a desk, and a chibi of Montaigne is hiding high on a shelf in the storage room. And those are just a few of the operators. There are 36 total operators to choose from as of January 2018. This is a 16 operator raise from the original 20 found in the game. As every expansion was released, gamers were given access to a new attacker and defender from that map's country. Sledge is an attacker from the SAS unit armed with a breaching hammer. Had a brief biographical debut in the E3 2015 trailer.
Sledge's Scottish lineage can be found not only in the personality description included in the game, but through clues on the man himself. Players may have noticed his tartan, a checkered cloth found on Sledge's hammer, hilt, and leg. This pattern belongs to an actual Scottish clan known as Clan Stewart. Other operators' past may be a little bit more ambiguous. Smoke, the SAS defender, was originally supposed to be born in 1990, but was changed for release to 1981. So what, I guess 90s kids can't handle deadly smoke canisters? Smoke's defensive partner, Mute, has also gotten his personal details altered. Listed at 5'6" on release, it was quietly changed to 6'1" after the Operation Black Ice expansion. Mute has also faced a few spelling alterations. When he first released, there was a typo glitch over Mute's loadout, which spelled disruptor with an E at the end. Ubisoft has since fixed the issue. Thermite, an attacker with FBI SWAT, was shown in a promo for the Siege Pro League season, mysteriously holding an M870, which you can't use in-game. Thermite's last name, Trace, can be traced back to Ireland, where it derives from the words meaning fierce. While Thermite is wearing his vintage bureau outfit, his exothermic charges change their name to Texan Dynamite. Everything's a little bigger and a bit more explodey in Texas. Sledge's real name is Seamus Cowden. This is briefly visible in the White Masks trailer along with other facts about him. Doc, the French defender, has the ability to heal other players from near and far, friend or enemy. However, unlike the other operators, Doc can still perform his ability when the player hits down but not out mode. Rook, the other GIGN defender, was born in a place called Tours. Tours is what they call the Rook chess piece in French. If any player was to look inside Rook's elite armor bag, they would find a small file labeled Operation Rook Mine. Rook Mine is a meme from the R6 community after a player shared his conversation with another player who responded to his question, Rook Mine. Gloss is an attacker with the Spetsnaz. His first name, Timur, translates to iron, while Gloss is eye, creating the loose translation, Eye of Iron. Fuse is the most unique operator in the Spetsnaz. In the original beta, Fuse was the only Spetsnaz represented in the game, which of course has changed since the addition of Glaz, Kaplan, and Tachanka. Fuse is the only Spetsnaz not from Russia, and the only operator able to use the ACOG PKAS sight. Kapkan, one of the two Spetsnaz defenders, has a name that translates to leg hold trap. Tachanka, Kapkan's defending partner, is another person with an interesting name etymology. A Tachanka is a machine gun placed on a carriage and driven by a horse used by the Russians in World War I. I'd say a machine gun horse sounds pretty fitting for this operator though. In reference to a meme within the Rainbow Six community, the Siege team added the Russian word for Lord on the side of Tachanka's ballistic shield. And now a quick prayer to our Lord Tachanka that he's going to be just as vital in this next patch. During a panel at the 2017 Siege Invitational, the development team stated that Blitz's original ability was to spawn during the preparation phase. This idea was abandoned very early on in the process. Jaeger, one of the German defenders whose name translates to hunter, surprised the developers during the closed beta. They found that his winning rate for defense was 52% when using the Magpie to deactivate grenades. Buck was one of the first operators added through the DLC Operation Black Ice. And just in case you need it, his blood type is O positive, a fact that can be found on one of the pouches located on his rig. In a strange show of product placement, Frost's standard outfit bears the Under Armour logo underneath her headgear, and just like her partner Buck, her blood type, B positive, can be found on the rig pouch. While Valkyrie doesn't appear to be left-handed, she keeps her mags on the right side of her body. Mags are traditionally held on the non-dominant hand side of the body, so this may be an indication that she is ambidextrous. Jackal, who has the ability to track shoe prints, cannot distinguish between particular operators who wear the same clothing. For example, Doc, Mute, and Valkyrie all have the same boot imprint. Jackal, who has the ability to track shoe prints, cannot distinguish between particular operators who wear the same clothing. Getting tired from playing so much Siege? Well then play Far Cry Blood Dragons inside Siege. I mean, you can't actually play it, but a broken arcade cabinet with the Far Cry logo can be found in the theme park. During defense on hostage, try taking out the civilian a few times. You may get penalized a few times, but a fun message will pop up calling you a monster. Siege's March 2018 expansion is called Operation Chimera. The pack features 2 operators, 1 French and 1 Russian, and a new game mode entitled Outbreak. Outbreak will be the first game mode to introduce completely new gameplay to Rainbow Six Siege. While the content of this game mode is still unclear, rumors of zombies and other half-human creatures have been hinted at. And with a hard-fought victory, that's all our facts. I'm Alpha Lance with the Leaderboard, and this has been 107 facts about Rainbow Six Siege. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite Tom Clancy game? Has your love for Rainbow Six Siege grown since its release? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. And if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts. And remember, Frederator loves you.